Nah, my futon, hold it up and smoke it. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for. It's madness, yo. All the things that we could talk about.
Call it.
But let's talk about these urban circumstances real quick.
And basically, it's
we got this.
So,
revolution.
Winner's frosty hand. Muhammad is the famed name, forever stand.
Standing on royal fusing of justice for the few, ridiculed by the pale terrorists bent on genocidal obsession, rooted in fear of neglection and abandonment, fueled by nightmares of ancestors' jealousy.
Because at the end of the day, I still want to be able to I don't dislike George Washington.
The kind of friends I think all friends should be like my friends. My friends are the kind of friends I think everyone needs. My friends see the things at times I don't see. My friends hate the police.
What has changed?
Are deemed the criminals, and the blacks are deemed the criminals.
Shut up and help.
Reflection ain't nothing but the inner child trying to see you. You gonna look? You gonna pick up that book?
Lord, keep me far from the faith. Guide me through night and day. Teach me your ways. Show me the righteous way to sway. Lord, can you teach me, please? Show me the way, I'd say.
Grand Risings, and welcome back to Urban Conservative with Chaz Neal. We're excited to have you join us on this journey of thoughtful discourse and community engagement. Urban Conservative is proudly sponsored by the Leon Block Network, an organization committed to promoting transparency, truth, and accountability in our media landscape. Here at the Urban Conservative, our mission remains steadfast: to bring you the latest news directly from the streets, addressing critical topics such as gun violence, crime, politics, and perhaps most importantly, exploring solutions to the profound challenges our communities face. As we embark on this third season, the focus is clear. It's time to actively contribute to the transformation of our communities for the better. How can we achieve this? The answer lies in a multifaceted approach that starts with reconnecting with our core family values. Strengthening our sense of community is paramount. Fostering bonds that transcend the barriers that often divide us. Moreover, it involves embracing our foundational roots, recognizing the historical and cultural threads that weave through the fabrics of our society. In this season, we are calling for more than words. We seek action. It's a plea to move beyond mere rhetoric and engage in tangible, impactful initiatives that contribute to positive change. The time for empty words has passed. Now more than ever, we need to put our convictions into action. Together, united by a common purpose, we can make a substantial and lasting difference in the well-being of our communities. So, join us on this journey as we explore not only the challenges, but also the opportunities for growth and progress. Together, let's turn our shared vision for stronger, safer, and more connected communities into a reality. Thank you for being a part of the Urban Conservative with Chaz Neal, a platform dedicated to fostering change and making a positive impact on the world around us. Shut up and help. So, this morning, I wanted to discuss a few different things, and we're going to talk about diverse perspectives, unpacking political ideologies. And the reason that I want to talk about this topic today is because of, first of all, historical context, and also because I want to bring up, Republicans, Democrats, as we're going into this 2024 presidential election, But it's not just so much about the presidential election either, because we also have, we're voting for people that are going to be writing policies and making changes on a federal and local level that matter to every community that is around. Doesn't matter if you're in Chicago. It doesn't matter if you're in Los Angeles, New York, Texas, Louisiana, Iowa. It doesn't matter, because everything that is happening is going to affect us. But I wanted to as well speak about this this topic, to dive into the political ideologies, comparing and contrasting the dynamics of Democrats and Republicans, as well as the complexities surrounding Hamas and Houthi. I think I'm not saying their name right, Houthi. But first, let's digest and not digest, dissect the Democrats and Republicans, because we have to. I want to start out there for the simple fact of that what sets Democrats and Republicans apart is summarized by their emphasis for XYZ and about progressive values, social equality, and comprehensive healthcare reform. Meanwhile, Republicans, leaning towards the principles of ABC, champion conservative ideas, emphasizing individual liberties, free market economics, and limited government intervention. And I don't think people fully understand that, because they say, Republicans are racist, or and then we look at the Democrats, where they have progressive ideologies. They're progressive in ways with policies and legislations that I feel are years ahead of us, and really trying to get away from family values. And to me, I feel like their legislation and their policies have broken up the Black family. They've broken up the family nucleus, because it makes it easier to be involved in people's lives by government, if they're on government assistance, if they're on CPS, if they're on Medicare, if you're getting Section 8. It's so much easier to be involved and to have control, and take it away from the parent and give it more to the government. And I don't think people really understand the complexities of that problem. Because do we want more government involvement, or do we want less government involvement? Because what are we seeing all across America right now? We're seeing chaos. You have New York, which is having a migrant issue. You have Chicago having a migrant issue. But also, they're not only just having migrant issues, they're already having issues that they've had to deal with for years, with gun violence, with crime, with homelessness. And all of that has gotten worse in the last 4 years. But yet we're putting more money at these problems, but our problems are only getting worse. So what does that show us? That money's not going to solve our issues, right? Because the resources are already there. But what we're not talking about, and what we're not speaking about, is the fact that those resources are being fraudulently used in ways of vacations, housing. They're buying houses, cars, and yet putting it on their 990 forms. They're putting it on their, they're documenting it. but putting it as it's their nonprofit. And that to me is where I don't think people fully understand that when we talk about the fraudulent behavior. And that's not something that, I might get into that, a little later in this episode. But I really just wanted to talk about the differences of the ideologies. And even within the Democrat and the Republican Party, you have different, because you have MAGA Republicans, you have conservative Republicans, you have Confederate Republicans. Then you get on the Democrats, you have progressives, you have socialists, you have liberals, you have moderates. And where does that break down to? Because they all think differently. I'll just talk about what we're talking about today, right now, with Palestine and Israel. You see people, Minneapolis City Council wrote a resolution calling for our U.S. government to call for a ceasefire. And then you had one of the members of the council write an opinion piece in the Star Tribune and talk about things about Muslims, about Hamas. And that's why I really want to talk about that, because we're even going to see other things be talked about in the coming days with the attacks on Houthi last night. And I know I'm probably saying that name wrong. But with the attacks on Yemen, and all in the name of that they're doing it in defensive. And we're only getting involved. What I don't understand, right, is we're bombing a community. And yet we're okay with that, all in the name of defense. But they haven't done anything over here on U.S. soil. Yet we're provoking a war. Provoking. Is that what we want to get to? Because I'll tell you, at the end of the day, all this is doing is fear-mongering people to literally vote in a different way. Is that what we want? Because we have a war right here in America before we get into a military war. We should be having a war on homelessness. Let's eradicate homelessness. Let's get rid of gun violence. I'm tired of seeing the school shootings. I'm tired of seeing the children doing homework at the kitchen table, minding their own business, just living their lives, and getting caught by a stray bullet. Are jumping on a trampoline, are eating McDonald's in the back seat, are riding the school bus, or shit, just even sleeping. And yet we don't even want to get rid of that, but we'll call for other things in other countries, right? All right, war equals money. You're definitely right, Ruth. War does definitely equal money, and that's sad, because if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And that's some words that I will always hold with me, and if people don't even understand where I heard that from a Democrat. I call him Kermit the Frog, because honestly, I can't even think of his real name right now. Oh yeah, Evan Brown. Thank you, babe. Evan Brown. When I was doing research and presenting, before I went to the full council, I had meetings with, Mayor Dowse, Dean Hove, and Evan Brown. And Evan sat there and told me, Chaz, this is really good, resolution. I think this can make a big difference. But I'm going to tell you right now that if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And proclaiming racism a public health crisis, it doesn't necessarily, it'll bring dollars, but the legislation and then the change, it isn't. See, and that's the part that hit me, because I'm like, damn, what do you mean? Well, it's all fine and dandy when you want to do a, maybe Martin Luther King Day holiday, or, a Juneteenth. But when it comes to making equality and seeing everybody equal and making sure that everybody is seen in different places of city government, or let's say schools, or how the city operates with, giving out contracts, or how, just the diversity of the city. And you don't see that. You don't even see where that comes from. And that's crazy. Wow. And the wars, take care of home first. The foreign aid is reparations money. You know what's crazy is, honestly, how can you not see it that way? Because any war that we've ever been in, we've always paid that country money. We've always paid that country money. And I was literally, Trump did an interview the other day talking about how in the last 3 years since Biden, our last 4 years since Biden has been president, how much Iran has gained wealth. And I had to really think about that. And, you do go back in history, and, the powers that be, you've had different countries, depended on that president's business interest, I'm going to say it like that, their agenda. You've seen that. And, when it came to Trump, I've seen that, Russia became, well, they thought they were, powerful because, Trump and Putin have dealings. And now we see Biden and Israel. And I think that's been brewing we all know it's been brewing for a while. And yet it all has to do with business interests, and that's what I guess this brings us to a great point to start this little video, because it explains the history. And I think that this is honestly, people should really see and hear. So it's about 7 minutes.
The Houthi movement, descent of Yemenis, and are fighting a bitter war against Saudi Arabia and the North to take control. And what exactly do they want? Established by former MP and religious scholar Hussein al-Houthi. Al-Houthi said he wanted to protect and revive Zaydi Islam, a sect of Shiism that makes up 35% of Yemen's population. Zaydis have a long and powerful history in Yemen and had ruled large parts of the country under an imamate since the year 897. When a civil war broke out in North Yemen in 1962, the last imam was overthrown. The Houthis say that this, along with the ensuing government policies, left many Zaydis feeling increasingly disenfranchised. When al-Houthi emerged, he began to rail against the influence of US imperialism and Saudi Salafism on Yemen's rulers, in particular on President Ali Abdullah Saleh, who himself was a Republican Zaydi. Al-Houthi's ideas appealed to many, but not all Zaydis supported him. His opponents accused him of pro-Iran links and a desire to reinstate the imamate, a theocratic system of rule led by a religious leader who must be a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad.
لسنا مستعدين أن نرى أنفسنا جنودا لأمريكا. لسنا مستعدين أن نرى اليهود يعبثون في البلاد الإسلامية هنا وهنا فنسكت. وثقوا لأنهم لم يسمعوا أحد يتكلم.
The Houthis began gathering supporters, and in 2004 launched an armed rebellion against Saleh after he attempted to arrest Hussein al-Houthi. A few months later, al-Houthi was killed by Yemeni police, but his death only fueled what would become 6 years of fighting, known as the Sada Wars. By 2009, the Houthi insurgency had spread beyond Sada province and into Saudi territory, where a large number of Saudi's Shia population lived. Saudi intervened, pushing the Houthis back and helping Yemen's government regain control of its north. When the Arab Spring uprising spread to Yemen in 2011, the Houthis joined the protest movement that ultimately forced Saleh to step down after a 33-year rule. But Saleh didn't go quietly, and his fight with his replacement, Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi, would destabilize the country, leading to an economic crisis in what was already the region's poorest country. The Houthis saw an opportunity and re-emerged, retaking control in parts of the north. Then, in an unexpected move, they allied with their former enemy Saleh and stormed the capital Sana'a in September 2014. With the former president's system of patronage and corruption and his links within Yemen's divided army, the Houthis were met with little resistance.
أما هذه الخطوة التاريخية الحكيمة الرشيدة الصحيحة السليمة المسؤولة فهي لمصلحة هذا البلد، لأن من مصلحة هذا البلد أن لا يستمر الفراغ. استمرار الفراغ هو الخطأ وهو الخطر.
A new government was formed in Sana'a, and Houthi forces continued to expand their control rapidly, south to Ib province and west to Hodeidah. President Hadi fled the country and sought backup from Saudi Arabia, who was beginning to grow concerned about a Houthi re-emergence and what it could mean for Iran's influence on its border. In March 2015, a coalition led by Saudi and the UAE stepped in and launched a campaign of heavy bombings across Houthi strongholds.
To save Yemen from a takeover by a radical militant group, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and its GCC allies, as well as its allies outside the GCC, have made a decision to respond to the legitimate request by the legitimate president of Yemen and to provide the assistance needed.
The intervention was spearheaded by Mohammed bin Salman, then Saudi's Minister of Defense, and dubbed Operation Decisive Storm. As the name suggests, it was intended to be short and swift, reinstating Yemen's government in Sana'a and highlighting Salman's leadership potential ahead of his bid for crown prince. But the campaign failed to oust the Houthis, who strengthened their grip on power and continued to expand into government-held territories. A number of UN-led peace talks between both sides were attempted, including ceasefires and prisoner exchanges, but ultimately failed at stopping the conflict. Meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in Yemen became desperate, pushing the already impoverished people to the brink of famine. Human rights organizations accused both the Houthis and the Saudi-led coalition of crimes against humanity, including the targeting of civilian areas, hospitals, and schools. In December 2017, Ali Abdullah Saleh formally broke ties with the rebels in a televised speech and announced he was open to dialogue with the Saudi-led coalition.
كل جماهير شعبنا العظيم في كل المحافظات في كل المديريات في كل العزل في كل الأحياء في كل مكان إلى أن يهبوا هبة رجل واحد للدفاع عن الثورة والجمهورية والوحدة والحرية.
The Houthis accused Saleh of treachery. 2 days later, the man who was once deemed invincible and survived numerous assassination attempts was killed by a Houthi sniper in Sana'a. The group began to root out all opposition in areas under their control, accused of detaining and torturing journalists, academics, students, and minorities, as well as recruiting child soldiers. Meanwhile, they continued to expand their territory, launching a series of reprisal attacks into Saudi Arabia. On the 14th of September 2019, Saudi's Aramco oil facilities were hit by drone strikes, shutting down 2 of its main facilities and taking out 5% of the global oil supply. The Houthis claimed the strike, citing it as a victory against their adversary. But Saudi and the US blamed Iran, accusing them of using the Houthis as cover to launch their own attacks on the Gulf. Iran denied playing a role in the attack, as well as repeated accusations that it funded and armed the Shia rebels since the beginning of the war. 6 years on, the Houthis look closer than ever to seizing total control of Yemen, confident they can hold out longer than the Saudis and the Yemeni government. Nearly 6 decades after the Imamate was overthrown, if Houthis win the war.
So, as we've seen, all Hamas and Houthi, all they are fragments of a part of a population. So it's just like with Democrats, Republicans. It's just that they have fractions of military. That's the only difference. You know, that because they fight for, you know, but they're standing up for something that is different. And I think they should have the right to fight for their rights. They should have the right to fight for their freedoms, just like we're doing over here in America. And for the fact that I don't think people fully understand what imperialism is either. And, you know, that's once we get to figuring out what, you know, these words mean and why does America want to be involved. And it always has to do with our business interests. It never has to do with just doing the right thing. It always has to do with, again, never has to do with dealing with the right thing. Imperialism is a geopolitical strategy where powerful nations extend influence over others, often through military force or economic dominance. Historically, it involved colonization and resource exploitation. Let's reflect on its impact on global history and the resistance it sparked. So, right, the U.S. has always been involved. If people don't remember, I don't know, I might say his name wrong, but Gaddafi, and how they said because all he was trying to do was make his country self-sufficient, you know, and wanted to show others that they could be too on their own resources, that they didn't need to have a big brother, or they didn't need to have handouts for the things that they needed. They could do it themselves. And that was the same way with Nelson Mandela. You know, these are people that think self-sufficient. They don't need somebody else always trying to influence the way that they govern their people. Right. 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 That's a perfect way of saying it, because, you know, and he was close to that too, because if Africa could have their own money, you know what I'm saying, without having to go through, you know, the dollar or the yen, they would have been a force. They would have been a force. They wouldn't have had, other countries wouldn't have had the control over Africa and their resources the way that, and monopolize, I can't even say that word, just take advantage of the situation because of the power. Oh, because of that, oh, well, you need us. No, they don't. And that's just the crazy thing here is same way with government. You know, they write policies to make it where we need them. But yet they don't defend us. They don't stand up for us. Because if they did, you know, I think about this every day, Marvin Haynes. I think about Maya Burrell. You know, I think about so many other people that have lost their lives, or they took a part of their lives and tore it up, and yet they're still in positions of power to sit here and say they're going to do the right thing. If you can't even do the right thing back then, how are you going to do the right thing now? Because you doing the right thing has only gotten worse. You've just perfected the sequences of it. That's it. Because you have better protectors now. You know, you have the Keith Ellisons, you have the Ilhan Omars, the Mayor Frays, the Lugers, because you have them in their back pocket. You literally, so why would they go a different way? And that's what's crazy is, I definitely can't wait for this election season, because it's going to really show me what some of these black people stand for. Because you're going to have a lot of black people privately say one thing and publicly do another thing. I want y'all to think about that, because their words publicly will be one way, but their actions privately will be totally different. Just like we learned from Mayor Frey, because you had a lot of these so-called BLM leaders, these so-called civil rights leaders downplay and down talk Frey, but yet privately vote for him. Privately vote to keep him in power, to give him strong mayor. And yet we're supposed to trust these people? Yeah, I don't believe so. Why would you trust somebody that the minute you know they're not a boomerang? You know, you when you throw a boomerang in there, it comes right back to you. No, that shit got a whole different route. It's like a maze with them, because they tell you one thing. It's like when you literally talk to a politician, you have to listen to keywords, because you can't listen to the whole statement or the whole quote, because then it's just, you know, you're just listening to a bunch of bullshit. Just listen to the keywords they're saying, because you can learn so much if you listen just for the keywords. And but here at the end of the day, again, we don't look for the keywords. Yeah, Ames was a strong mayor. Yeah, and then it's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. We just literally gave these people more power, and then we wonder why we can't get rid of none of the corruption. We got to get rid of the corruption before we can get rid of it. But yet people don't see that. They don't see the corruption because they prefer and choose to look the other way. They choose to look the other way. I see that in Minneapolis all day, every day. You know, you have these people, because it's crazy as hell how everybody's quiet about Mike Patton in Minneapolis. It's funny as hell to me how everybody is so quiet about Mike Patton. Somebody that had been called out for years, but instead you had certain leaders in the police brutality movement protect this dude instead of calling him out. It's been like that, and it's going to continue being like that. The ambulance chaser. You know what's crazy is he bigger than just the ambulance chaser, because there was I've seen him work a lot of cases. Just like I don't even like, even just yesterday when Sharon Ross went to court, it was funny as hell seeing Earl Grey was her attorney. I couldn't believe that shit. But then again, money talks, bullshit walks. And I was just like, wow, it's crazy how these motherfuckers been around for years. for years. These motherfuckers have been around. So it didn't shock me, but I was like, it's crazy to me of how, never mind it. Everybody needs an attorney. He can, I guess, if you can afford Earl Grey to get you whatever you're about to get, then he was probably more worth the money. I guess that's all that matters. But, so, do we feel and I think that's why the people are more aptable to and related to Hamas and Palestinians and people from Yemen, for the simple fact of that we see the same shit happening to us in our own countries. Not our own country, in our own communities. We see it. So I think we're able to relate and compare. Maybe, the experience may be a little bit different, because we're not facing bombs or well, shit, I guess maybe, yeah, we are kind of, because you do see bombings at least once a day so far in 2024 in America, some type of bomb, explosive, I guess they've been calling them explosive devices, and how the media really doesn't, they downplay it or they don't play it at all. I'm not going to talk about aliens in Miami, but the things that we do see, we just choose to ignore. And to me, that's a problem, because if we don't understand our past, it's going to repeat itself. And I think that's why they don't want us to listen to our ancestors, and they don't want us to learn the history of our elders, for the simple fact of they know that if we're not educated about the past, that we're going to continually make these same mistakes. And that's what's happening. We're making these same mistakes that our ancestors made because we didn't stand up and fight. They chose to go another route instead of what they did was a ceasefire. That's literally what we're dealing with, is a ceasefire on racism. That's literally how I see it. Oh yeah, that's been, first it was the 2040 plan or the 2020 plan. There was the 2030 plan. Now they have the 2040 plan. It all just is to try to make it into a 15-minute city. It's about depopulation. It's about gentrification. And we're seeing that in real time in Minneapolis. We're seeing that in real time with gentrification, with redlining, with the train coming through over North Minneapolis, where they're getting rid of a historical Black community, Black neighborhood that's been there for years, and yet all for a train. They did the same thing in St. Paul, in the Rondo neighborhood with 94. And the only reason why they're going to get rid of a lot of that shit over North Herc is because of the train. It's not going to be, because if it was to do the right thing, they would have done it years ago, right? The only reason why they're going to close down Herc and get rid of it now is because of the train. There's no other reason. It's the only reason why they're going to start putting a little money over North. But at the end of the day, you think it's the only reason why over North is going to get better, not because they're going to do anything. The police are going to actually, do police work or solve crimes. They're going to do it, right? They're going to do it. How they're going to solve a lot of that shit over North is they're going to move the people to other communities, right? Just like how they did, everybody wants to talk about, Broadway and Lindale has changed, but nobody wants to talk about how, yeah, okay, you might have stopped the crime and the stuff happening from there, but where did it go? Because you didn't stop it down the street. You didn't stop it where it just moved, just like we see with these homeless encampments, right? Every time they close one, another one pops up, right? Because I remember back in the days when I was a teenager running around in the streets, and the hot spots have all moved only a few blocks away. Because it used to be how you see Merwin's and the murder station, what they want to call the Mercer Winners gas station. It used to be across 94 in Washington because we had the honeybee, right? We had the honeybee where the same shit that goes down in that area today used to go across on Washington. But the only difference was it was across 94. So all it does is crime just shifts area because all they did was switch and there's still stuff that happens over there. I'm not saying that there isn't, but all they did is they cleaned that area up, shifted it, and now it's all it is just moving in different areas because, you know, they want to say that, oh yeah, we, you know, and I give credit, there's been work done, you know, the bus area was moved, bus stop was moved from in front of Merwin's. But the only difference is once that closed, they just shifted. They just went to across the street to Cub, or they went across the street to Walgreens. They didn't do anything, but just there's not people at that corner no more loitering. They're just all around the other corners. So just like when they moved the people out so they couldn't be using their drugs, all they did was go down to Penn and Lowry, or they went to Penn and Broadway. It shifted. It moved. And you can literally tell that by the crime data. Every time it gets to be a hot spot, it shifts. That's all we're seeing is a shift. But they don't want to talk about that. And that's all we're going to see is because you're going to have crime go from North Minneapolis out to St. Louis Park, Brooklyn Center, and there's already crime there, but it's only going to get worse. You're going to see because the more they start moving poor people out to other areas, people are going to move out to Robbinsdale, Crystal, but then they're even going to move further. You know, you're going to have people move to St. Cloud or, you know, Rochester, Owatonna, Albert Lee, because it's a different area and they'll think that they can, you know, maybe find better opportunities, right? So you're going to see a lot of that too. So you're going to have crime shift. Not saying that it's going to happen this year or next year, but it's definitely happening within the next 3 to 4. Wisconsin too. Yeah, that's the one crazy part of it is of even with these bigger cities like Detroit, Chicago, you're going to have the poor Black people. You're going to see even a shift there, not even with just Black people, but just poor people, period. Because the more that they move them out of their communities, they're going to look in other places for opportunities. And where are you going to go? You're going to go to an area where you think that there's better opportunity with lesser people, right? So that's where that's where they're going to head. You're going to go to Rochester. That's why we're seeing all this building in communities like Rochester. Well, I guess maybe you guys don't, but I do. I noticed the building going on in different communities and the way that they're building, because they're building efficiencies in 1-bedrooms and not family. They're not building 2-3 bedroom townhouses or homes, single homes. No, they're building apartment complexes, apartment units, complexes. So I already see and understand of what they're building and what they're shifting their communities to, and where other communities are going to shift towards, because we're going to see an influx of people from Wisconsin, Illinois, maybe even Iowa, Ohio. They're going to move, and they're going to think that maybe Minnesota's a little bit better. They don't want to go to Minneapolis because it's dangerous, or, you know, the crime is a little bit more uptick, and they want to be, you know, slow down a little bit. But if they want to have that, love that nightlife, let's just move to Rochester. Cities is only 45, 50 minutes away. So people are going to move for first that comfort and, you know, be somewhere where they can still chill and live a good life and be able to still have fun. So people are got to realize that we're going to see an influx of different types of people coming into our community from other states, other countries. And are we ready for that? Because we haven't even have a handle on the people that are already here. So I do know one thing, though, is that when you go back and look in history, America's always involved in the bullshit. They're always somewhere in it. But I hope people learned today, because when you have politicians like Latrice Vita call Hamas a terrorist organization and not put it into context, because they also are a political organization as well. They're not just a military or a militia. They also are a political. So I think people really need to put that into context when we talk about Hamas. They're just far right. It just ain't no difference, because, and that's what I was because especially when it goes out to the Middle East, you have Sunni Muslim and you have Shia Muslim. So, oh yeah, they definitely are powerful up here. They definitely, and that's the one thing that what's crazy is when you do look at a lot of our elected officials, especially white ones, you see that they are Jewish. You do see a lot of Jewish. So when people say that, you know, it's crazy how anything that you say against Jewish people can be seen as anti-Semitic. I get why, because when you look at people in power and then you look at their religion, yeah, I get it. Because I honestly believe that if there was more black people in power or that had wealth, I don't think you'd see the N-word being taken seriously, because Asians have a hate crime bill. Jewish people have a hate crime bill. Niggas don't. It's okay to still lynch us. It's okay to have to kill us and put us on an unmarked grave and not tell our loved ones for 6 to 8 months. No, they can do that to us, or they can just lock us in a jail cell, never come out, and be innocent. Wow. Don't sell out after a trip to Israel like Ellison did. He was about the community before that. You know what's crazy is you are so correct, Robert. Because if people don't know Keith Ellison's story, they don't know his background, please look it up, because his shift is so easy. It's so easy to observe of when he changed, of even talking to some of his colleagues. Because one of my lawyers was actually a colleague of Keith Ellison's. And they don't, that's the one crazy thing, is like how much even inside the Democratic Party, they don't like Keith Ellison. I don't know why he keeps on winning. For especially is how much I've heard that inside the movement that they don't like this man, but somehow he still wins. But I guess money talk, bullshit walks. And that bullshit they be spewing publicly don't happen privately. I guess that's probably by design too. So yeah, it's sick how much stuff is out here in front of our face, and people still don't want to see it. And that's what's sad to me, because that's how I know we haven't grown as a nation. That's how I know we haven't grown as people, because of the simple fact we're still not even holding people accountable. Because we're still doing the same things we were doing in 2020. We're not trying to educate anybody. They're making it easier to get in college. They're making it well, shit, they trying to get rid of Gen A'ers, because Gen Zers they're pretty much done. They're gonna probably wipe out most of Gen Z, because they're either dope, or they don't even care about being in a relationship where you can make babies. Because, yeah, never mind, I ain't going there. They definitely don't want us producing families. So you know what's crazy is, Ruth, if you're still on here, even you, Robert, too, because I've seen you in a few spaces lately. How do y'all feel about what's going on in Chicago with the Make America Red Again movement? You know, because I don't know. The more I listen to Mark Carter, yeah, this should be it's. I love the fact that they're pointing out, you know, cities for action, and they're pointing out the policy and things like that. Just getting behind it, because for me, it makes it seem like I don't know if these people are really boots on the ground. Because Republicans the red side ain't loved like that on the political streets and in certain communities. You know, so it's like, yeah, because them spaces is the way they be talking to each other, especially the FBA, and you know, and that's what makes me wonder, because a lot of those people that be in them spaces, you know, talking about they voting for Trump and they red, those were BLM dudes. You know what I'm saying? Those were the same people behind Biden. So it's like, why the fuck would we trust you now? You was telling us to vote for Biden. Did the GOP offer a bigger bag? That's what makes me wonder, because Twitter, it makes me even wonder, because it's like these people they sound educated, but yet all I see them do is Twitter spaces, and I don't see no legislation. I don't see no organizing, because they keep on talking about Chicago in August. I don't know what's going on in Chicago in August. But having all these people pull up to Chicago, and it's like, for what? Well, because what is that going to do? Because if people don't remember, the Chicago 7, the Chicago 8, I think it is, Chicago 6, 7, 8, and how during the DNC went there to fight against war, to fight against, you know, there was different people were going for different things. And it's crazy, because you have the anti-war groups, you have BLM, you know, and all these groups that are probably going to be going to the DNC for the simple fact that they have different fights, they have different agendas. And it makes me wonder, like, damn, are we about to see the same thing that happened in Chicago at the DNC? Because that was some fuck shit. And I know I've talked about it before, but history has a history of, the past has a history of repeating itself. And I think that's what we're literally going to see, because you have all these people that are probably going to descend on Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. And what's going to happen? You're going to have the anti-war. You're going to have the reparations group. You're going to have the ceasefire people. You have the trans people, the LGBTQIA plus community. I don't know. There's so many different variations of that acronym. But the LGBTQ community. Yeah, you are right. I do have a hard time listening too, because I ain't ever seen so many people get called a bitch, and then some grown ass men. And it's like, damn, y'all can't even be respectful. Like, and it's like, how do people listen to that? Because how do we get anywhere when every other word or every other sentence or every other paragraph, you want to call somebody a bitch? Like, that hasn't even been disrespectful to you, all because you don't agree with what they're saying. And it's like, damn, y'all act like children in here. That's how I took that, because, yeah, that should be off the chain sometimes. And I don't know how to take Isaiah Washington right now. The way he talks about the border, it was like he was having a goddamn panic attack last night on that space. He was like, oh, the intel I'm getting on the ground from the border. Ooh. I was like, what the hell? Like, what the hell are you talking about? Shit. He's like, what the fuck? These people, man. But then it's like, I always knew people were paid to do that type of shit. But it's like, wow, the way that they really pay these people, man, because I'll tell you right now, some of these cats, they gonna go down niggas for Trump. I wish I would. I don't care. I might like some of his immigration policies. I can't never vote for that man, because all I can think about is the Central Park 5 and how he ain't never apologized to them kids, to them brothers. Cause in the New York Times took up, man. So for me, I could never vote for a man like that. Like, and I already have once, and that's sick, because I already voted for his orange ass. So before I get off here, I wanted to read you something. So now I'm gonna be done for today, but I guess I'll talk about what's going on tonight after I'm done with this. So, in a life of crime and deceit, we tread. In a life of crime and deceit, we tread. Lies echo, a tapestry of threads. Disloyalty whispers, shadows in the night. Fake personas dance, a deceptive sight. Politicians and fake niggas intertwine, poisoning streets, a toxic design. Every pop, a record of pain, capturing the struggle, the relentless strain. Elders' voices, wisdom once spoken, a cautionary tale, a promise broken, yet in the chaos. Why don't we heed? Their warnings echo, a desperate need. A sympathy of chaos, a city's bane. In this world of shadows, where truths are slain, listen, oh listen to the elders' plea, for in their words lies the keys to set us free. We need to listen to our elders and our ancestors, and understand where we came from, and understand where our ancestors were trying to take us, because this is not the direction I believe that they seen and the work that they put out here on these streets, these boots on the ground. But in other news, before I get out of here, I will tonight be on with Reverend Tim Christopher on Twitter, and on YouTube tonight at 9. I will be on a podcast called From the Inside Out. So I will be on, one's at 7, the other one's at 9 o'clock tonight. So great conversation is going to be between me, Rev, and John Tell, and also, going from the Inside Out Network with Jay. It's a show called Men's Night, and just gonna have a conversation about wrongfully convictions and how we can fight this judicial system and how we can organize and strategize together. So I hope I'll put links up here in a little bit. Hope everybody has a great day. If you're in Minnesota, stay warm. It's supposed to be snowing. There is already some snow out there. So be safe. Everybody have a great day. Winter and TJIF, enjoy your Friday. So win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. Y'all have a great one.
Every day, fighting for my life. Every day, fighting for my life. Fighting for my life. Fighting for my bread. Grew from the seed you thought was rot. I think not. Fire bred desire to rise above denial. To rise from former ashes to face new trial. Trial or triumph. I am enough. Trial